Alright, I've got everything I need for the noodles. All you need is some eggs and some flour. And I've got my KitchenAid mixer bowl here. We're going to put one, two, three, four, five. Okay, I'm going to start with 5 cups of flour. I usually do 8 cups at a time, but I don't need a whole lot of noodles. I just don't have any lasagna noodles, so that's what we're making. And these are duck eggs. I have an excess of duck eggs because nobody wants to eat those. My husband says they give him a tiny ache, so he doesn't want to eat duck eggs. So I use those to cook with instead. And we're just going to put all the eggs in with the flour. I'm going to try to get this done before I have to leave to take Sydney to work. And since I did 5 cups of flour instead of more, I'm going to wait on this egg to see if I need it. So let's go put this in the mixer. And I've got my dough hook attachment. And we're just going to run it on, well, I guess I need to plug it in first. Alright, we're going to run it on 2, and this dough should be pretty crumbly. So I'll see you back here whenever it is ready. So this is just a little bit wet, but I will be adding more flour when I need it. I ended up adding that other egg and I still thought it was too wet, so I put in another egg on top of that, and now it's too wet. So I will be adding flour as I need it. So let me get this dumped out on my floured surface and I will show you how to knead your noodle dough. I got all of my dough dumped out, and I'm not going to be able to knead all this at the same time, so I usually like to do it in sections, about a handful at a time. And I apologize in advance if the camera falls over, because it probably will.
No! Oh, I wasted 16 bucks. They don't fit. They're too small.
Sydney likes to waste money on things she buys on the internet. And now she's crying because they don't fit her. Can't imagine why.
You told me to size down, Mom. Why are they so small? Maybe I can make them fit. Can I squish them?
Here, you can squish this one. So it did look kind of wet before I dumped it out, but all of the dryness was on the bottom. So, it's still really crumbly.
It's so flat.
And we have to make it a consistency that's more like dough and less like flour. And the way to do that is just to keep kneading and squishing. So we need to get these looking more like dough.
Yeah.
And the more you mess with it, the more you squeeze it,
Yeah.
the more it'll mix together and it won't be as dry and crumbly. But it does take a while.
This is gonna be. Aww. There's a banana on the floor.
Well, throw that one away and we'll get you a new one. There you go.
Whoa.
After we get all of these formed into dough, we are going to wrap them up and let them rest to let all of the gluten release, because the more you mess with it, the harder it gets to do anything with, and you can't roll it out. It'll just bounce back to its smaller.
I'm so strong.
And Dean is really strong. He really likes helping.
I'll put my hand.
Squeeze it.
Squeeze it.
Squeeze it. You see how I'm squeezing? Squeeze.
Squeeze. Well, I need one of these to go.
No, you do not need to stand on a bag of flour. Or potatoes. Get off the potatoes.
I'm very strong. Yeah.
Alright, when we get these formed up, I'll bring you back and show you what they look like. I've got my balls of dough here. In order to knead, I just take the palm, my heel of my hand, and press down and just kind of slide. Fold it. Do the same. And I did that with all of the dough. And they're pretty much ready to rest now. They're really, really hard to squeeze. It takes a lot of effort to squeeze them because the gluten is so tight. So we are going to wrap those in plastic wrap, set them aside for a little while and let them rest. And then we're going to run them through the noodle press on the KitchenAid. Alright, so the gluten has loosened up in these some. And I can't find my rolling pin anywhere, so we're going to have to do this by hand, which is unfortunate because I can't get them as thin as I would with the rolling pin. Let me get some flour.
Oh, flour too. Oh, for you.
So it doesn't stick to the top of my freezer or my hands.
Hey, I want some too.
Stop.
I want some too.
Stop.
I want some too.
Dean.
I want some too.
So I'm going to flatten this out a little, and then I'm going to cut it to make it smaller, because if I don't, the noodles will be super duper long.
You get a pizza.
Okay, don't do that. Now it's got fingerprints in it. Okay, so we're just going to cut this in half and roll the other piece back up while I flatten this one. And I'm going to make it as flat as I can, and I'm going to run it through the KitchenAid on level 8. Which is the highest setting on mine. You want to start it out on the highest setting so that it doesn't, 1, tear your machine up, and 2, tear your dough.
Whoa.
Hopefully this is flat enough. Alright, here's this, and we are going to come over here and turn the machine on low and start running it through. And it looks like it was too thick because it is shaping funny. It's coming out funny. Please excuse Dean. He's having some kind of, I don't know what he's doing. He's being loud. Alright, and we're going to fold it in half and throw it through again. Now I am going to turn the machine down to 6. It was on 8, now I've got it on 6. It's very particular, you need to flatten it slowly. And I'm just going to run it through a couple of times. And it's still too thick for noodles, so I am now going to turn it down to 4 and run it again. And this will get pretty long. The thinner it gets, the longer it gets. So it's good to have your hand under it just to keep it from touching everything. We're going to run it through one more time on 4. And I think I'm going to run it through one time on 3. It's almost as thin as I want it, but not quite. So I'm going to turn it down to 3 and run it through again. That's much better. So you see how you can kind of see my hand through? You want it to be thin, but not like super duper thin, or your noodles are going to just cook up to nothing. And I'm going to take this one and lay it out on the freezer so it can dry a little bit. And I'm going to run the rest of these through, just half at a time, and then I will show you the finished product. Alright, so here is our finished product. I've just got them all laying out on top of the freezer. I ended up with 5, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 5 noodles. And as you can see, these are much longer than an ordinary 9x13 pan. So I am going to cut them in half and use them as lasagna noodles. And at this point you could also run them through a spaghetti cutter or different pasta cutter. You could cut them by hand. You could turn them into ravioli. This is like your base of all kinds of noodles. So you will always start out with your flour and eggs, a little salt if you want, and that's all it takes to make homemade noodles. So I'm going to get these cut up. So to cut them in half, I'm just going to fold them in half and then run my knife down. Make them even. And whatever is left over out of these from this lasagna, I'm just gonna dry them and put them away. I've got some 2-gallon Ziploc bags that should fit these. But they have to be completely dried before you put them in the bag, or they'll mold. And we don't want that. All of these noodles are approximately the same size. Same length anyway. Some of them are wider than others, but that's okay. Because these are homemade noodles, they're going to be a little bit more rustic. And I am going to go ahead and pre-boil these noodles. I want to see how many I need. So let me grab a pan. So even cutting these in half, they're just a smidge bigger than my pan. I'm going to go ahead and use 4 of these for tonight's dinner. And I'm going to dry these other 6. I will cut off some of the edges so they won't be sticking up. I'm going to go ahead and lay these out so they can dry. It will take a good long while for these to dry. I'm talking like days. So they won't be able to stay on the freezer. I'll have to clear a spot off on the kitchen table and put them. But we're going to go ahead and separate them out while they're here. That way they don't hold moisture any more than they have to. And I'm also going to lay out these other ones that I'm going to use because I want them to dry just a little before we start to cook them. I think they turn out better that way. They don't need to be super dry, but dry a little. Alright. So here's all of our noodles. Alright, so we're going to prep some lasagna. We just made noodles today. These are noodles. I'm going to take these, and as soon as the water gets to a boil, I'll put those in there. In this bowl, I am going to make my cheese mixture. I'm just going to set this up. I don't know if you can see. Alright, I'm just going to set this up. This is a duck egg. And we've got cottage cheese. I know a lot of people use ricotta, but I don't really like the texture of ricotta. I think it it's got a sandy texture. So we're going to use cottage cheese instead. And I'm just going to dump this whole container in here. And mix it in with this egg. Our meat mixture is in the frying pan right now, so we'll go check on it in just a minute. Now, I like Parmesan. I don't have any shredded, so I'm just going to use the powdered stuff. I'm going to shake it in until I feel like it's got plenty. Alright, that's probably about 1/4 cup Parmesan in there. And mix that in. Alright, now I've got this block of mozzarella that I'm going to shred. We're going to add some to that cheese mixture, and we're going to reserve some. I like super cheesy lasagna, so I'm just going to shred it. I like the shredder a lot for cheddar and Colby. It's a little difficult on mozzarella because it's kind of soft. Alright, I think I've got about a cup here. I'm just going to add it, and we'll shred more whenever it's time to build your lasagna. I'm just going to mix all this together. And this will be our cheese layer. All right. Let's go check on the meat. Alright, so it's a little loud. I've got the canner going. It's going to be in a different video. But I've got some pinto beans and some sausage going in there. I only had enough room for 1 jar of sausage, so I put the extra sausage in here with the ground beef. I'm just going to cook it together. My ground beef is not all the way thawed out, but it's getting there. And that is my pasta water. It's almost ready to put my noodles in. To this meat, I'm going to add some garlic. Don't want to do this. I don't want to crush up any garlic right now, so I'm going to just put it in there from this jar. I'm going to put it, this is a 1/2 tablespoon. So I'm going to put probably 2 tablespoons in here. And some salt. My sauce has more garlic and some onions and herbs and stuff in it. So I probably will go ahead and cook some in the meat as well, in addition to the garlic. And I don't want any super huge chunks of meat in here, so I'm trying to smash them up pretty good. Got the Italian seasoning. I'm just gonna don't want it to come out too good with this hand. Let it put some in there. Mix it around real good. Alright, it looks like our pasta water's finally boiling. So we're going to take our noodles. I've already cut these down to the size of the pan. These are fresh made pasta noodles. I'm just going to throw them in. It's not going to take nearly as long to cook these as it would if they were dried. We're just going to let those go for a little bit and then we'll get them out. And this meat should be done in a few minutes and we'll drain it and put the sauce in. Alright, so I think this meat is done. And I think the noodles are done. So I'm going to turn off the noodles. And I'm going to go ahead and pour in my sauce. This is 3 cans of crushed tomatoes that I canned last year. Oh, that one looked like sauce, spaghetti sauce. 2 cans of crushed tomatoes, 1 can of sauce. And I am going to have to doctor this up some because they weren't all spaghetti sauce. And I went ahead and left most of the grease in this because it wasn't very much to start with. And I don't think it'll hurt anything. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a taste. It's very sour. So I'm going to put some sugar. And it needs some, probably some more garlic and some salt. Salt. And I've already put the garlic up. I like a lot of garlic. So we're going to go ahead and put another 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. We've got the salt in there already. And I'm probably going to add some more spices. And I'm just going to take the lid off this time. There we go. That's better. Get all those mixed in. And that's just like a mixture of dried parsley and oregano and basil. I'm going to add a little bit of sugar and let it cook down a little bit while I get these noodles out. Alright, it's time to start putting things together. I have hiccups, excuse me. I'm just going to ladle some sauce on the bottom of my pan. This is just to keep the noodles from sticking. Alright, now we're going to put our noodles.
Some roast beef, some chicken, a pizza. Some roast beef, some chicken, a pizza. Oh, I had some of this Sunday. My Sunday gave us fermented bread. What you mean?
Now we're going to put some of our cheese. You want the layer to be pretty even. All right. And more sauce on top of that.
Wait, is this serious?
Yeah, your arm is in front of the camera though.
My arm?
Your arm. Stop.
Hey, stop this?
No.
Hey, stop it? You give me some
I've got plenty of sauce, so we're going to put plenty of sauce on this layer. And another row of noodles. Oh, that one ripped.
You know where?
All right. Now we're going to put in the rest of our cheese.
You know where I use a get out you know where I use a get out
Try to make it even. Bean. I'm making a video. Hang on a second.
Okay.
mess everywhere. Now we're going to pour in the rest of our sauce. Quite a bit.
It says its belly is dead. Its belly doesn't have no power.
It's okay, it'll last, I think. Now we're gonna grate some more cheese. Put it on top. Hey, stop. Alright, it is topped with cheese. I used the majority of the rest of this package. I only have a little left. Now I'm going to put it in a 350 degree oven and it'll cook for maybe an hour. This is how the lasagna turned out. Probably should not have put all the sauce in it. It's really runny, but that's okay. It'll still taste yummy. And these I'm gonna just leave out to air dry. Just flip them over every once in a while so that they don't completely dry out on one side and then stay wet on the other side. We don't want that. And then once they get dry, I'm going to put them in a 2-gallon Ziploc bag.